So following the last conference with Luca, today we are lucky to have Mish. He wants to share with us his international experience. So Mish, thank you and welcome. How are you doing in New Zealand and in your lockdown, in your bubble here?
Hey, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm good. I've been here for a while now. I was meant to go back home in March after my training camp in Australia, and now I've been just trying to go on the next flight I can, but it seems like they're all getting canceled. So I've been waiting this thing out here. So I'm happy to join you guys on this call and share my experience with your club and yeah, answer any questions you guys might have. Hopefully I can be of some insight. I'm definitely not the most experienced athlete, but I've been on the US team for, I think, close to 10 years now, maybe 8 or 9 years. So I've done quite a lot of international seasons, and I've been on the podium at some World Cups, at Worlds, and at U23 Worlds, which was quite a while ago now. So I guess I'm trying to work on some things now to get back in the game, and I'd like to share some things I'm doing that could help you guys out, and I don't know, just things that you can take away from my training, because I know slalom is a pretty small sport, and I think working together and getting each other's opinions about things is quite helpful. We're not like secretive of sharing our strategies and keeping everything to ourselves, which I think is pretty cool. That you can go talk to someone, athlete from another country, whether it's me or whoever, and get to know things about their training and how you can apply it to yours. So I guess I could start with a little video, if that's all right.
Perfect.
So I haven't used Zoom that much. I'm gonna try to figure out how this works. Can you help me, Vincent?
Screen share. And then bottom one. Do it correct. Down. No, down.
Share.
Now you're sharing that down.
What am I sharing? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
And this. Are you guys able to see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the actual YouTube video.
It is. Can they hear? There's no audio.
No, no audio.
How do you work audio?
There was a symbol came up in the center of the screen at some point that looked like it was muted in some way, but not a YouTube mute, like maybe a Zoom mute somehow on it.
All right. I guess if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Could you guys hear anything?
No.
I can't even hear you guys. Maybe I'm muted.
No, there was no sound. Can you hear us?
Oh, muted. All right, sorry about that. I tried to show a little video, but I have no idea how to do it.
You can maybe share the link, and can someone share?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
That is a good idea.
We could all watch it individually.
Yeah.
I'll maybe send it to Carrie and Jeanette because they have more experience with Zoom than I do.
Well, there's a chat button at the bottom. You can maybe put it in there.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, if anyone could play it so everyone could see, that would be great. But if not, no worries.
I'm not sure about the video, Mish. I'm sorry. I know how to share a document. Just drag it up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do you need the audio?
Well, it's kind of good with the audio.
Okay, can do it.
Share document up the top. Just there on there.
Share screen.
Yeah. And then put your. Here we go.
Is it good? Or?
Yeah, push play.
But I don't think this is my screen, is it?
That's not James, is it?
Oh, yeah, it's working. Cool.
So it was good, or I think the video works well?
Yep. Better than I did.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, that was a little video from the World Championships in the US in 2014, which when I think about it was quite a while ago now. But I was just, I was looking for videos to share with the group, and this came to my mind because you guys will have the U23 Worlds here. And I just remember how cool it was to have the Worlds at home, to have a major international race at home, and how special it was to have your home crowd cheering you. And it was just an incredible experience. And even though the race didn't go as well as I had hoped for me, I was just outside of the final. I remember everything that I did to prepare for that race and how much effort I put into trying to do my best on my home course, or sort of a home course, was really special to me. So I want you guys to realize how cool it is that you have Auckland, and how special that event's going to be. So whatever your goals are, whether it's to to be racing there, to be in the final there, whatever, you have a real opportunity to showcase your sport on an international level. And I think that's really special. That doesn't happen very often to countries like New Zealand and the US, because we don't get many international races like this. So I think it's a chance for you guys to just to have a really cool experience. And I'm a bit jealous, actually, because I haven't had that. And well, I'm lucky because I had that. I had two chances. I had the U23 Worlds and the Senior Worlds in the US. I think like almost a year after one another. And so it was really cool. Probably never going to happen again. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just enjoy that, and yeah, that's it. So I guess what I wanted to talk about next with that is goals. Because I think if you are planning to race at the Worlds in Auckland, or at the next ones, or be on the senior team, whatever, you need to have goals. And I think that's something that all top international paddlers have, and they have a structured goal system. And it's really important to have that if you want to get to the top, if you want to stay at the top, and if you want to succeed in the long run. Because if you don't have goals, you're just kind of spinning your wheels and hoping for the best. And I think in slalom, there's so many unpredictables that you need to set goals so that you can notice your progress. Because sometimes you can stay at the same level for a really long time, and it gets a little bit frustrating, especially if you don't have something to look back at and say, well, actually, even though I didn't have good results this year, I got a lot stronger because that was my goal. And I think that's really important, especially at a really young age. You want to start building that attitude of having goals and a plan of how to achieve them. And the good thing is you have a lot of coaches that are willing to work with you on your goals and help you achieve those goals. But you need to take a lot of effort on your own to kind of see where you are and what you're capable of, and set out those goals right from the beginning, because it is really important. And I think it's something that's kept me level throughout my career, knowing that I'm gonna have a rough year here or there, but as long as I keep focusing on my goals and keep making little incremental improvements, that eventually you will get there. So with regards to that, you can have different types of goals. And this is something I've learned from sports psychology, from different coaches and different sources. You can have performance goals, and you can have process goals. And performance goals are going to be your long-term goals that you have to go to the games, to win an Olympic medal, to be in the World Championships final, really, really high level goals. And then you have your process goals, and those are going to be your short-term goals that will basically, in summary, they will help you get to those long-term goals. And process goals can range, and they are really, really important because they are specific to you, and they don't have to be anything huge. They can be something like improving your forward stroke technique, or trying to do better on an endurance test, or something like that. Something that's tangible, and you can monitor it with video or with your coach and say, actually, I've improved significantly in my forward stroke technique. So if I keep working, I can improve my other process goals and be on the team next year, which is my long-term outcome goal or performance goal. So that's a bit of an insight into my thinking about goals. I know there's a lot more to it, and I know how important it is. So that's why I wanted to lead with that, because I think to the younger athletes, it's really important to know what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it, especially when you have important races coming up. You want to make sure that you look back on your training program and say to yourself, I have this goal and I know how I'm going to get there. And if something goes wrong, I can always come back to this place and see what's going wrong, and I can improve it. So I guess the next thing I want to talk about is pretty relevant to the situation right now, because having goals right now is quite difficult, because you can work on really basic things at the moment. You can't really focus on your long-term process goals or your long-term performance goals, because they're quite far in the distance. So I think right now it's quite good to focus on the process goals, like technique training, building the base and endurance training, just doing a lot of things that you didn't have time to do before. And that's my plan while I'm here in New Zealand. Basically, I know I need to get stronger. I've known that for a while, so I'm putting a lot of emphasis on that. I'm doing a lot of gym sessions, and on top of that, I'm doing some technique stuff that I know that I'm lacking. And so I think even though the situation is tough right now, it's also an opportunity to every athlete to sort of work on their weaknesses and focus on things that they can improve on, that will make a difference later in the long run, even though that, you know, we don't know when the next race will be. There's still a chance for us to actually do something right now that's quite useful. So that's what I've been focused on, and I think I have enough things to work on that I won't get bored. And if I have a lot of things to work on, that means the younger athletes have even more things to work on, because I've been doing this for a long time, and Luca has been doing this for a long time. So I'm sure she has the same thing to say. I'm sure she has a lot of things to work on. So it means that the younger athletes, they have a lot of things to work on, because they're not quite at the same level yet. So I think the thing to take away is don't get discouraged, don't get bored, because if you just talk to your coach, you will find that you are able to work on some things right now that will improve your performance in the long run. So I guess that's my 2 cents for now, but I know that your coach has sent me a lot of questions, so I'd like to answer them as best as I can. But if you have any questions right off the bat based on what I've talked about, then shoot.
Excellent. Thank you, Mish.
I've got can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about your experiences of racing at home in Deep Creek and how cool it was and to embrace it, did you find any negatives? Was there anything you found difficult about it?
Yeah, I think there was definitely negatives, but I guess I learned to make them into positives at the end. But having such a big event at home is a lot of pressure, and you feel like you want to perform even better because you're racing at home and you want to make everyone proud, and your whole family's probably watching and is there. Well, that was the case for me. So I think there's a bit more pressure, which can be a good thing. For me, it was a really good thing because I think I performed at pretty much what was my level at the time. But outside of that, I don't really see that many negatives. I think it is a really cool opportunity, and well, yeah, that's it.
So is there anything, like, if it was to happen again, is there anything you learned from it that you would you could take into the next one and change, or?
I guess if the only thing I would really change is to spend more time on the course, because it wasn't really my home course. It was just a course that was kind of randomly used for the World Championships in the US that no one really uses anymore.
And USA is a big country.
Yeah, it's a really big country, and we have a lot of pretty big courses that are never used by slalom, which is really sad at the moment because the sport was really, really small. And we have all these great courses that are just sitting empty with no gates that have the potential to be used. So, well, I'm not going to get too much into that, but I guess I will point out that you guys are lucky having Auckland, and you're also lucky having other courses which are maybe not on the same level as Auckland, but they're operating and you're able to use them at least some parts of the year. So I think this is one thing that I really like about New Zealand and about coming here, is that you guys, your sport is doing quite well compared to us, at least. And there's definitely an opportunity for it to grow. And I think you have a lot of good people behind the sport that are trying to grow it. And it's a really, I don't know, just positive community. And I'm a bit jealous of that, I guess.
Is this where you ask us about residency?
That was my next topic of discussion.
Thank you.
Does anyone work in the New Zealand government?
Connections.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So you kind of talk about that you set your goals and then you kind of see where you end up, and if you don't kind of meet your goals or whatever, you talk about going back and looking at what you've done. How do you record your training? What do you record of your training, and what does that kind of look like, and has that changed as you've got older?
So I'm pretty loose with recording my stuff on paper, but I do a lot of discussions. So, and we do testing and stuff like that. So there's things that I can actually look back at physically and see the difference. So I do a lot of discussions with my dad, who's my coach, and he's recording a lot of different things from my training. We've used like a power meter. We've used heart rate to monitor the training and different things. But I also have a psychologist who I call quite often, just to basically, like, it's like my diary almost. I just talk to her and fill her in on things that that I've been working on, and she writes every single thing I say down. So the next time that I call her and tell her, basically give her my update, she will be able to look back and say, well, this is not actually what you told me last time, so what changed? And I think that's quite good, because then you have someone else who's accountable, not just yourself. So I guess my my advice would be that if you're not able to keep a training diary, or if you're, you know, struggling, at least try to find some way to record your progress, whether it's writing down your goals or talking to your coaches periodically, and just using every opportunity you can to make sure that your progress doesn't go unnoticed, because I think we can get discouraged when we train quite hard but we don't actually notice any results. So I've had a really good friend who I trained with when I started kayaking, who was really an amazing athlete, and he was I mean, he's the reason why I'm able to push myself to this day, because he was really crazy about training. He was recording absolutely everything, and he was doing, you know, twice the workload of every other kid in the club, because he was that motivated, and it sort of inspired me at a very young age to do everything that I possibly could to get to his level. And what happened eventually is that he stopped kayaking because he was putting in all this effort and he wasn't making any progress. He was just staying level, and he got really frustrated with slalom, so he basically quit and switched to surf ski. But I think it really motivated me training with him to push myself and to make sure that I'm marking my progress, because as much as I wanted to be like him, I didn't want to have the same issue like him where I'm putting in so much work, but I'm just gutted because I don't see the results. Any other questions?
If no one, I can ask you questions. So you used to paddle in flat water, Mish, and can you give us some advice what the best session for you on the flat water to improve more your level? Which kind of sessions?
Well, I guess right now, my flat water training is quite different to what it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was doing a lot of long distance aerobic sessions. Basically, half of the week I would do flat water training in a straight line, and half of the week I would do flat water training on gates, focused on technique. But now I'm doing a lot more stuff on whitewater. And I think it's not only because I got older, but also because the sport's changed a little bit since I started. Because I mean, I'm still quite young, but it's been 10 years. It was 10 years ago that I was training on the flat, and now it seems like everyone is training mostly on the whitewater. So I think what I would say is that it's still really, really important to train on flat water, even though the sport is really shifting to whitewater, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the fitness to survive a 90-second course, you're not going to get that by just doing technique sessions on the whitewater over and over again. Like, you need to take an extra step, whether it's on the flat water or doing some sort of endurance work out of the boat. You need to train your aerobic system. You need to train your lungs, your heart, to be able to take the load of that 90 seconds. So I do less of flat water training now than I did when I was a kid, but it's because I have a good base and I'm more focused on specific goals, like maintaining my lung capacity, or just I have very, I guess, targeted goals to that. But I think when you're younger, you can work on a broader scheme on the flat water. Like you can work on technique as well as working on building up your endurance. And it is much harder to do that in a straight line on the flat water than if you do it on the white water. Because if you do some sort of endurance like 30-30s or 10-10s or whatever, there's a lot more room to cheat when the water is moving. But if you do it on the flat, it's no one but you. So, the water's not helping you at all. And I think that's really important to train.
Awesome, thank you. Can you tell us about your weekly training? How many sessions are you doing, and how many whitewater basically, or gym?
Yeah, I'll just give you sort of a rough outline of an average week during the preseason. I would do about 3 gym sessions during the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If it's the off season, I would even do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So 3 to 4 gym sessions a week. And then technique sessions is about 3 to 4, like shorter technique sessions on the whitewater, plus fulls on the whitewater each weekend on Saturday normally. And then some endurance sessions, usually 2 a week. One is going to be shorter, like 10-10s. Another one's going to be longer, like 30-30s. And then on top of that, I might go for like a short little run each week and maybe do 1 little core session. So if you add that up together, it's quite a lot of sessions, but they're spaced out quite well. So you end up doing pretty much 2 sessions a day, and then you have 1 day off. For me, it's usually Thursday in the middle of the week. And yeah, that's pretty much an average of what I do. It obviously changes quite a lot during the season. If I'm racing at a World Cup, that's going to change pretty much to technique sessions every day and less gym. So I know different teams do it a different way, but for me, I try to do gym sessions all the way throughout the year. Even if I'm going to a international competition, I try to continue my gym training, because I noticed that if you take a long break from the gym and come back after the races, you lose a lot. I think with endurance training, it's a little different. I think if you have a good base, you can maintain it. But with gym training, if you're like me, if you have trouble putting on mass, then you really can't take too much of a break during the season. And I think for really anyone, especially people with like slow muscle fibers, I think it's really important to do the gym session between the competitions, and you need to target them in a certain way. You don't want to go crazy before an important race in the gym. But what I do is just do really dynamic exercises that sort of stimulate my muscles to be fast during the race.
Any question from someone?
Yes, I have a question. You choose to come to New Zealand every year and spend time on a natural course like the Kaituna or Mangao. And meanwhile, the other paddlers train in artificial course all years. Do you think it's a strength for you? And how do you stay confident in this choice?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I've been coming here every year since 2016. And before that, I've never been to New Zealand, actually. I always wanted to come, but I never made the trip. I would usually go to Penrith for a good month, before that, I would be usually in Dubai for a month. So those courses are quite different from here. But I haven't noticed that much of a difference in my training, because a lot of my training in the off season is focused on endurance and strength. And as I get closer to the season, I focus more on the technique. So the training that I do on the Kaituna or in Mengahau in December, January, it's really focused on maintaining my technique and focused on like more on my strength and endurance. So whatever training I was doing before I came to New Zealand, it was pretty much the same, just on a different course. And I really haven't noticed that much of a difference. I'm still able to achieve all my training goals, and on top of that, it's a way cooler place than Dubai, you know, in the middle of the desert. I'd rather be in a lush forest on the Kaituna and and be in a much nicer place, be more free to do other activities outside of slalom.
And you need this. You need that more activity, a nice place. You can't stay. You can't stay around Penrith, for example. Stay in stadium day after day and slalom. I don't know.
Well, and you guys see, like, everyone follows everyone on social media. So whenever you see people training in Penrith or in Dubai, half of their photos are going to be from going on a hike or doing some cool activity outside of kayaking. And I think that's really important to take time away from training and do something that takes your mind completely out of it. So when you come back, you're excited again. And I think that's a problem that you start to have when you've been doing it for so many years, is that you get bored and you don't have that same excitement when you're a kid. So for me, I know that having this little break over the last month was really good for me, because now when I was going back on the flat water, I was really excited to be back on flat water, on gates, on flat. I don't think that's happened to me in quite a long time. So yeah, I think taking little breaks here and there and being in a place that allows you to do that is quite good. And you see people who go to Dubai from Europe all the time. They go there for training because it's convenient, but they never stay there more than like a week or two because it's boring. So I think it shows you that this is a much better place to train, but people don't really realize it, so I want to keep it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question from the paddler?
Yeah, I want to hear some questions from the viewers, not just the coaches.
I have a question. How do you structure your year in terms of like planning which races to do? Like, do you aim to do most of the World Cups and get as much racing in as possible? Or do you kind of target a few of them and try and really like structure your training to kind of perform at certain World Cups and obviously the World Champs?
I think that depends on what my goals are for that season. So I think I definitely have seasons where I'm like, all right, this year I want to do every single race, and that will usually be the year after the games, where I can focus on racing and trying to get as much experience as possible. And then slowly, like year by year, as I get closer to the games, we work on a strategy with my dad to target the races that we think are more important, and put, if not skip altogether, put less focus into the other ones and try to train through them. So I don't know, say there's a World Cup in London next year and the World Championships are in London the year after that. I'm going to put a lot of focus in that World Cup and then try to take it as if it was the world. So the next year I can do well at the world on that same course, and then I'll train through the World Cups leading up to that World Cup. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, I'm sure you guys have the same strategy with Campbell. When you have an important race, you probably are training through some other important races, no?
Yeah, we usually target like one World Cup as like an A event, and put more emphasis on that than some of the other World Cups. Yeah, sometimes like some years that I've done all the World Cups, I felt really burnt out, and I feel it's really hard like when you get to the third World Cup to really feel like you can kind of do a good job. I don't know if you find that.
I definitely find that, and I think it gets really tough when you're struggling, if you're having trouble at these races, because then you just bring all that like mental weight with you from race to race. Well, you try not to, but it's still just as tiring on you mentally as it is physically. So it is much easier to get burnt out, in my opinion, if you do every single race in the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Any question from the paddlers? No questions.
I have a
chance.
I have a little point I can make. Since we're talking about, I don't know, training at a high level, I think that I had this misconception when I was younger that getting to the top level was like a end point for me, that once I got there, I would be able to stay there. And I think it's quite easy to think that when you're young, when you're getting better, making really significant improvements, you notice that you can almost achieve anything. And what happened to me is I made the mistake of getting to a certain level and thinking like, well, now I'm here, so I'm good, you know. So then I just focused on trying to do better in my races. But now, after many, many years of doing this, I've realized that it doesn't matter how good you get, and doesn't matter how many hours you put in. Like you can't ever stop focusing on improving, because when you look at the different athletes in slalom, no matter how good they are constantly improving, constantly trying new things, and trying to chase the next guy or the next girl. And you know, if you're not at the top, you're being chased, and that's how it is in slalom. If you win one World Cup, at the next one you can miss the semi. It doesn't matter how good you are. So I think that having that mentality of trying to always find things to improve is really, really important. And if I had to take away one big thing from my entire slalom career, it would be that getting to a certain level is not your end goal. I think a really good goal to have is to always keep improving and searching for things that can make you better, and never stop with that attitude, because it will allow you to keep getting better for a really long time.
I've got another question. I was trying to leave space for the young paddlers to ask one, but they haven't yet, so I'll come in with another. I know you like to tinker with your kit. Have you got any tips for the younger paddlers from all the stuff you've learned over the years, whether it's paddles or boats? What are the the best little changes you've done or advice you can give a younger paddler for their equipment?
Oh man. Yeah, I do like to tinker with my some people would say I'm crazy about my kit.
Sand your whole boat down.
I just spend like half a month sanding my boat and redoing everything in my split boat here because it was just it was turning to a piece of garbage, so I had to make it nice again. But no, even like during the seasons, I'll just like move my seat back a little bit, move it forward, move it back, move it forward. Like this is just a constant battle for me because I'm like OCD. So if I don't have a good feeling on the water, I really need to make sure that it's not coming from my boat or my paddle. And what I've learned from this is that the more you think that something is wrong with your boat or paddle or whatever, the more likely it is coming from that because you're telling yourself it's coming from that. I don't know if that makes sense, but chances are, something about your boat could be bothering you. But if you keep like fixating on it and not actually like changing anything that's going to make a significant difference, you're just telling your head that like there's something wrong with your equipment and you just can't stop thinking about it. And this is true in not just in slalom, but in like a lot of different sports. I've spoken to my psychologist and she says like this is exactly what happens, and it doesn't mean that the gear is not important, and it doesn't mean that you don't need a good boat that fits your style, but it just means that you need to find a good balance between what it is you want and how crazy you are about feeling, because I'm really crazy about feeling. So I think this is definitely a fault for me. It's a challenge. So I do have a hard time finding a good boat. And now with the way boats are made, you're never likely to get the same exact boat 2 times in a row. So I think the thing to do is just to be able to adapt and have Campbell as your coach so he can cut down the tail by 0.5 centimeter.
So you said like you're real into the feeling. If you were to like try a new model of boat or trying to decide what boat to use for the next season, what are the kind of things you're looking for when you try a new boat? Because a lot of like the younger paddlers, they might, looking at a second-hand boat or trying to buy a new one and trying to decide what to use for them. What are the kind of feelings you're looking for?
Over time, I've learned that the kind of feeling I search for in a boat is to have a really light bow, which means that there has to be a bit more volume in the bow, and a tail that slices nice through the water. So it means that I need a bigger boat for me than I would normally need. I think that definitely doesn't mean that it's the same for you or for another paddler. I think it's just important to find what is your what you're good at out on the water. If you're really good at staying on top of the water, like staying really dry, then you would go for the light bow, which is what I'm going for. But if your advantage is to, I don't know, to sit heavy on the tail and like use the tail to do the turns, then you might need a bit more volume if you're a heavier paddler in the tail. So it's really like, I don't know, it's just really tailored to each individual paddler. And I think you just need to figure out what it is that you like in the boat at some point and just try to work with that and figure it out over a period of time, because you're not going to figure it out in like one day. I think the more the more boats you try and the more experience you get, then you get a better idea of what it is you like in a boat or paddle for that matter.
Do you play around much with your paddle length?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the only reason I've really messed with my paddle length is because I've started to have elbow issues in the last 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was maybe because I'm holding my paddle too narrow, but it turns out it's just, it's actually kind of crazy. My elbow issue is coming from my back.
Oh, wow.
Because I have a bit of a round back in the top. Like my arms are having to work a lot harder. So I think this is what one really good physio told me, is that because I have a bit of a round back and I'm not engaging my core as much as I should be, my arms, my elbows are compensating for that. So it's causing tendonitis in my elbows, and I have a golfer's elbow quite a lot. So I tried to mess around with the length, but in the end, it didn't make any difference. The only thing that made a difference was doing some like physical exercises out of the boat to improve my posture and improve my like core strength and core reaction in boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard sometimes, I think, to figure out when you have a problem, whether it's an injury or some sort of feeling that's bothering you in training. It's hard sometimes to pinpoint exactly what it is. And as much as I've done this myself, I don't think the first thing you should do is blame it on your gear. I think you should always keep an open mind and try to search for a lot of different things that could be going wrong, because in the end it might surprise you. It might just be a really simple thing you're doing that's causing you the problem. But the more you fixate on like one thing that you think is wrong without actually doing the proper research to find out what it could be, then it's you're just going down a rabbit hole. And I think the good thing is I'm like crazy about my gear, but my dad, he used to paddle. So he paddled 4-meter fiberglass kayaks and a wooden paddle. So he talks to me about this. We disagree quite a lot. And I tell him that I'm not feeling good with my paddle. He's going to be like, well, I paddled with a wooden paddle. What are you talking about? And so it's kind of bad, but it's good at the same time, because it just, he made me realize what I'm telling you now is that, you know, you don't want to blame your gear. That's not the first thing you want to do. You can, if it's actually the thing that's causing it, but first you need to keep an open mind.
Can you feel the pee under your mattress?
What?
Can you ever feel the pee under your mattress?
Princess and the Pea.
Do you not know that story?
I do not know.
Oh, okay then.
It's a children's tale.
Look it up afterwards then.
Okay.
I suppose one thing that I always have wondered, because obviously I've kind of seen you and your father is also your coach, and I've seen you around for a number of years, is what is that relationship like? Is it good to have your father as the coach? Does it have its advantages, disadvantages? Has it kind of evolved over the years?
Yeah. I guess if I had to compare it to another group or another like parent and child duo, it would be Miriam and Jess, except that I'm not as relaxed as Jess. So it means that me and my dad get into way more arguments. And what I could take away from their relationship, Miriam and Jess, is that you know, Miriam is always going to be like a little intense about Jess, because that's just how it works when you're related to someone, or when it's your partner or whatever. You're going to have that emotional connection. And I think Jess is quite good at managing that. I am not. So I often like let my feelings get in the way, and I'll just say things to my dad that I probably just could have kept to myself. But that's just how I am, and I'm trying to control that in training. I'm trying really hard to just like ignore sometimes. But then, you know, sometimes you just need to say something, and it's gonna cause a bit of a awkward situation. But that's the price you have to pay when it's your parent, you know. Like the advantages outweigh the disadvantages in most cases, because your parent knows you really well. Then they know what you're capable of. They know your progress. They know your strengths. They know more about you than you sort of realize. So I think if you just always keep that in mind, and when the times get tough, and just realize that they're in your best interest, then it's good. And I think it's as many times as we've had our disagreements, I would hate to have another coach, because there's no way they would know me as well as he has. He does. But it does take a lot of effort from both of us sometimes, you know, a lot more effort than if like one of you guys were coaching me. It would be probably pretty easygoing, but with my dad, there's a lot of compromise and a lot of issues we have to work around. So it does require a bit more effort, but I think in the end, it's like I said, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Why don't you ask Luca and Campbell the same question?
I think I've already asked them that question.
Luca's actually just run off to answer her phone, which is ringing, and it's not a cop out. She has just gone into another room.
Well, so I think we've done 1 hour meeting. I think we've done so Mish answered a lot of questions, and I'm pretty much happy. And thank you, Mish, for all your time spending with us. If someone has a last question to answer before to finish the meeting. So if it's not, it's all good for you.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you guys for having me. I love sharing my experiences, and hopefully that that insight will help you guys in your training. And yeah, if you guys need me again for a call, I'm open. I'm probably here for a little bit longer, so no worries.
Thanks a lot, and we hope we can see you on the water, maybe in 2 weeks or 1 week.
Hopefully.